The anime begins with a scene of a boy being held captive by a man named Umezo and also Yaichi. While understanding the situation, Yaichi recalled his past. He used to work at the Sagusa family's house and was close to a boy named Seinoshin, the adopted son of the Sagusa family. Once Yaichi brought tea to Seinoshin, saying that his mother had sent the tea. Seinoshin couldn't believe that it was his mother who had sent it. He felt that as an adopted child, he was never fully accepted by the Sagusa family. He has a burn on his back, shaped like a maple leaf. He felt it was the wound that made him unacceptable. In the evening, Yaichi met a man named Heizai Amanyagi, who was standing in front of the house fence while raining. Then they talked about Seinoshin, who was getting smarter by the day. They felt that he would make a great successor in the Sagusa family. But according to Yaichi, Seinoshin felt rejected by the family because of his burns. Moreover, his mother had never been friendly to him. One afternoon, Seinoshin was gloomy as usual. Yaichi goes to him and asks about his situation. At that time, he said his stepmother disliked burns on his back. Yaichi did not confirm this. However, according to Seinoshin, his stepmother likes beauty, while the wound on his back is not very beautiful. Then Yaichi took him under the maple tree, which had started to fall. Yaichi said that his burns resembled a very beautiful maple leaf. Shortly after that, a male employee came and informed that his stepmother was pregnant. Hearing that, Seinoshin felt even more rejected in the family. The scene returns to the present. Yaichi, whose appearance has changed greatly from his past, looks like he is considering hiring the services of Ronin. It turned out that the other party had hired the Ronin to make things worse. Umezo asked why he wanted to hire Ronin and answered just for show. One afternoon, one of Yaichi's employers notified a male, Ronin, named Akitsu, that he had been fired. Akitsu asked why he was fired, even though he had only been working for a few days. At first, he did not want to explain in detail, but finally, he said that a new Ronin had been sent and was more reliable. Akitsu left feeling gloomy and he returned to his narrow and very simple house. Akitsu is a samurai who has been given freedom by his master, then becomes a Ronin. After becoming a Ronin, he went to Edo City to start a better life. One afternoon he went to the city to look for work, but he only had a job as a laborer. He refused because he was a swordsman. After that, he walked around the city. Finally, he saw Yaichi sitting alone with a geisha while eating dumplings. Yaichi looked into his eyes, and Akitsu immediately ran away. Not long after, Akitsu stopped at a corner of the city. He felt confused about why he was running, scared like he had seen the Yakuza. He rested while imagining himself eating dumplings. Not long after, Yaichi appeared in front of him while offering dumplings. Yaichi invited him to eat at a shop. There Yaichi asked why Akitsu could become a Ronin, and he explained that he was given freedom by his master. After that, Yaichi said that unhappy people are not suitable to live in Edo City. Yaichi said that he wanted to hire Akitsu's services for escort. He said he was in trouble and needed a bodyguard to look after him. Akitsu has not given an answer whether he is willing or not. While leaving the tavern, Akitsu accidentally collides with a group of Ronin on the street. He was scolded by Ronin, so he looked nervous and scared. Yaichi said that Akitsu should look up when he walked and didn't think he was as low as them. After saying that, Yaichi left casually. Seeing him being so calm, Akitsu was attracted to him. Akitsu asked him what problem he was facing. Yaichi did not want to explain his problem in detail. In the end, Akitsu agreed to accept the job. At night, Yaichi takes Akitsu to go somewhere. They will meet the person who has a problem with him. Yaichi said that that person hired Ronin, so Akitsu only had to stand behind Yaichi to scare him. Soon a man appeared. At first, he appears alone, but then two Ronin threaten Yaichi. At that time, Yaichi drew his sword but was restrained by Akitsu. Then Akitsu pulled his katana and went forward and beat the two Ronin. Unexpectedly, he was so strong that the two Ronin immediately ran away. Yaichi asked why he was released by his master if he had such great power. Hearing that question, Akitsu was nervous. It turned out that he was very shy and didn't like being in the spotlight. Yaichi is aware that Akitsu's problem is about his personality. Not long after, Yaichi took care of the man in front of him. The man immediately apologized and gave the ransom. They left after taking the money. On the way home, Akitsu asked about the incident earlier. Yaichi explained that he had kidnapped the son of a merchant and the money was the ransom. Akitsu is surprised and asks if Yaichi is a bad person. Hearing that, he only replied that he often kidnapped people. After that, Akitsu returned to his house after being paid. Akitsu still couldn't believe he had helped a criminal. The next day, Akitsu was visited by a geisha named Orake, who some time ago ate with Yaichi. It turned out that she was from Yaichi's gang, known as the Five Leaves Group. She told him that Yaichi wanted to meet him. A few moments later, Akitsu went to the shop where Yaichi was. He finds out that Akitsu hasn't touched the money he gave him. After eating, he invited Akitsu to go upstairs. He asks if Akitsu wants to join Five Leaves or not after getting paid. Akitsu refused his offer. Because of that, Yaichi said that Akitsu must be killed. He pulled out his sword and put it on Akitsu's neck. But a few moments later, Yaichi said that he was just joking. His purpose in inviting Akitsu was to drink sake together. They drank until they were drunk that night. The next day, Akitsu, who was drunk, was woken up by Umezo. Not long after that, Umezo's daughter named Kinu came. She was a waitress at the tavern. Then the two of them discussed the 5 leaves. After Akitsu left the shop, he went around the city looking for work, but none of them suited him. One day he saw Yaichi relaxing on a bridge, and Akitsu approached him. He said that Kinu told him about the origins of the 5 Leaves group. In the past, Kinu was treated badly by her employer's son. Umezo intends to teach Kinu's master's son a lesson, but Yaichi kidnaps him. As a ransom, Yaichi gets a lot of money and returns the kidnapped person easily. According to Kinu, they only kidnap people from working families. Yaichi says that he can earn a lot of money using this method. After that, Akitsu said he was in a lot of debt in his village, which is why he sent money from Yaichi to his village. But Yaichi is not at all interested in his story. If Akitsu wants a lot of money, he can join Yaichi's group. He admires when Yaichi is so calm and easy to smile. Yaichi says if he wants to be like that, he must join the 5 Leaves group. In the evening, Akitsu was treated again at Umezo's restaurant. Even so, Umezo was fierce to Akitsu, but Yaichi asked him to be more friendly. However, Umezo didn't want to be friendly to people who didn't want to join their group. When the night came, Yaichi left the shop. Out of curiosity, Akitsu followed him. He asked where Yaichi lived, but Yaichi only replied that he lived in the Katsureya area, a nightclub. Soon afterward, Yaichi continued his journey. Akitsu quietly followed him. When he arrived at Katsureya, Yaichi was immediately greeted by many comfort women. Suddenly, Akitsu was visited by a comfort woman. Then he asked why the people there were so friendly to Yaichi. She replied that Yaichi was a bodyguard in the area, even when he didn't look like a bodyguard and didn't even bring a katana. Besides that, Yaichi often disguises himself as a guest staying at a brothel. After getting the information, Akitsu went back to his house. Because he kept thinking about Yaichi, he didn't even pay attention to the road and hit a pole. The next day, Akitsu, who needed money, accepted a job that was not escorting. He ended up working as a laborer in Edo City. Even so, he was very bad at work and often scolded by his colleagues. A few moments later, Yaichi appeared there. He said if Akitsu was hungry, he could go to Umezo's restaurant for a free meal. In the evening, Akitsu went to Umezo's restaurant and ate there. Not only him, but Otake was also there. Umezo came and gave food to Akitsu. However, because he was annoyed, Umezo put his food roughly so that miso spilled. Umezo asked Kinu to bring new miso and wipe the table. Umezo didn't give him food for free. Instead, Akitsu had to accompany him shopping tomorrow. Thankfully, Akitsu accepted the offer. The next day, Akitsu and Umezo took a long trip somewhere. They go to someone's house away from the crowd. There Umezo placed a basket that he had been carrying. It turned out that there was a man in there who was tied up and silenced. Akitsu was surprised and didn't know that Umezo was carrying people in his basket. It turned out that the forge's owner had often helped the 5 Leaves group to treat the captive. In the afternoon, Akitsu and Umezo returned to the shop after shopping. Along the journey, he talks about Yaichi. He said that he doesn't believe Yaichi is a good person, but he thinks Yaichi is a smart person. Akitsu asked why he wanted to join the group if he didn't trust Yaichi. Umezo said that he did not trust Yaichi to be a good person, but he believed in Yaichi. That night when he arrived at the shop, Yaichi came and gave the ransom money. Surprisingly, Akitsu was paid even though he did not contribute anything. Otake says she also doesn't do anything but always gets paid. Her task so far has been to pick up maple leaves and give them to their victims. The next day, Akitsu helps Otake to collect the dried maple leaves that have fallen on the ground. According to her, if Akitsu joins their group, they will consist of 5 people. So far, the members are Yaichi, Umezo, Otake, and a man named Matsukichi. A few moments later, Matsukichi came and gave Otake a hairpin. She asked him to put the hairpin on. While Akitsu was alone to collect the dried maple leaves, suddenly, a samurai named Yagi appears and insults him. Yagi asked if he was a swordsman, and Akitsu stood up and confirmed it. Yagi, who considered him lowly, gave him a maple leaf with 7 branches, then Yagi left him. Sometime later, Akitsu went to meet Otake. He gave the dry leaves that he had collected, but Otake said they did not collect maple leaves with 7 branches. She threw away the maple leaf that didn't fit. That night, Yaichi was doing surgery together with Matsu. At that time, Matsu said that it seemed their latest victim did not report them to the government. After that, they even discussed Akitsu. Yaichi said he was not interested in Akitsu's personality, but he wanted to invite him to join their group. A few days later, Akitsu is finally hired by a family that owns a rice business. Thanks to Yaichi's help, he was recommended and got the job as well as being the family's bodyguard. While at Umezo's tavern, Yaichi was having a meeting with his group. They were determining their next target, and Yaichi had sent Akitsu sneaking into the target family. Yaichi didn't tell Akitsu the whole plan because if he was told, he would reject it. Meanwhile, Matsu will be tasked with finding information about the family. When they are ready to carry out the kidnapping, the family will bring Akitsu as a bodyguard and make their group's action easier. During the day, Akitsu is patrolling the family home of the rice shop owner. There he saw Matsu disguised as a servant. Even so, he didn't know why Matsu was there either. Akitsu continued his patrol and accidentally saw a boy named Yotaro. But when he saw Akitsu, he hid. Seeing this, Akitsu immediately became gloomy because he was feared by small children. But not long after that, Yotaro appeared in front of him. Finally, they played near the river. Yotaro said that samurai usually scare him, but when he saw Akitsu, he wasn't afraid for some reason, so they became friends. Meanwhile, it turns out that Matsu is secretly investigating the closeness between Akitsu and the target. Sometime later, Matsu managed to approach the wife of the rice shop owner. From their conversation, he found out that she couldn't get pregnant and that Yotaro was an adopted child. According to rumors, Yotaro is the son of her husband's mistress. After that, Matsu returned to Umezo's restaurant to provide the information because the situation had changed, so they had to change their plan. The next day, Umezo made rice cakes. He asked Akitsu to give the cake to Yotaro. Akitsu was grateful and thought he was very kind. In the afternoon, Akitsu played with Yotaro again near the river. He gave Yotaro a rice cake, and he immediately ate it. He asked Akitsu to eat rice cake with him. Akitsu agreed, and they both ate the cake together. Not long after they both fainted, Matsu came by boat to kidnap Yotaro and left a letter along with 5 pointed maple leaves. The letter said that they asked the rice shop owner to give a ransom and must be delivered by Akitsu if Yotaro wanted to survive. At Umezo's tavern, Yaichi thought back to Seinoshin. He used to be the target of Yaichi's kidnapping. Suddenly, Yaichi realized that Seinoshin's adoptive mother wanted him dead. Turned out that he instead will be paid lots of money if they manage to kill Seinoshin. Even the group leader named Jin couldn't bear it. But he needed money, so he would send Seinoshin's sword and blood to his adoptive mother. Not long after, the kidnappers got the money, but they didn't kill Seinoshin. After that, when the kidnappers were about to Edo City, they told him to go anywhere as long as he didn't come home. But Seinoshin said that he would still go back home because, at his house, there was Yaichi who would protect him. The scene goes back in time when Yaichi and Odake met Matsu for the first time. Yaichi and Odake were in a room when there was a commotion outside. It turned out that a thief was being chased by the police. The thief was Matsu, then Matsu accidentally entered their room. He was covered in blood because his hand was injured. Yaichi told Matsu to hide in a cupboard. Odake said they would definitely be suspected because there was blood there. Yaichi then asked her to stab him with a hairpin. Not long after, the police came to the room and searched it, but they saw Yaichi and Odake fighting until he was injured. Not wanting to interfere in household matters, the policemen left the room. After that, Yaichi told her to treat Matsu. In the present, Akitsu has just returned after delivering ransom money to the Five Leaves group. He was given ransom money by the rice shop owner, then Akitsu was dismissed from his job. After that, Akitsu met with him, who said that the rice shop owner felt guilty for paying the price of rice in the market, so the price was very high. Then Akitsu went back to Umezo's restaurant. He asked Umezo when he would pick up Yotaro from Soji's house and said he would do it tomorrow. Akitsu said that he also wanted to go there. The next day, Umezo and Akitsu come to Soji's house. It turned out that Yotaro is still unconscious and was well guarded. Yotaro will not be aware of the kidnapping. After that, Akitsu asked Umezo about the work of the Five Leaves group. According to Umezo, they used to fight the criminal families, but now Umezo feels that their group is criminal. After that, Akitsu returned to his house, and soon after that, Yaichi came and gave money to him. Akitsu felt embarrassed because Yaichi treated him like a member of the Five Leaves, but he said that Akitsu had helped them. Yaichi gave information that they would not operate for a while. A few nights later, Yaichi invites Akitsu to stay at the brothel area. Yaichi offers him to be a bodyguard there to get a job. He is willing and lives in one of the brothel's rooms. Then he came to Yaichi's room. He asked how long Yaichi had lived there, but Yaichi forgot since when he lived there. Suddenly, he said that Akitsu has a personality easily tricked by women. Akitsu is an honest and trusting person. Yaichi warns him to be careful while living in a brothel. Then Akitsu said about the thing he had wanted to say for a long time. He thought Yaichi was a person who didn't like to show his feelings. He guesses that Yaichi actually doesn't care about money. Then their conversation stopped because one of the women came and said that Akitsu's room was ready. Afterward, he left Yaichi's room. The next day Akitsu went to Yaichi's room. Soon after, he said that Odake had paid the rent for Akitsu's residence, so if he was fired from the brothel, he still had a place to live. Yaichi said that Otake would stay for a while at Akitsu's place. After that, Akitsu stopped by his old house, then met Otake, who was playing with a cat. There Akitsu asked why Yaichi's group was named 5 Leaves. Otake said that was her idea. But for more details, he can ask Yaichi directly. He asked how long she had known Yaichi. She answered that it had been a long time. At that time, Yaichi had helped her when she had a problem. On the other hand, Yaichi paid the rent for his room for 6 months, but the brothel owner said that the money he gave exceeded the cost of renting a room for 6 months. Besides that, the money from him some time ago was still there. However, he didn't care and then asked for the money to buy a hairpin and distributed it to the women there. That night Yaichi met Akitsu in the room. Akitsu asks why his group's name is 5 Leaves. He replied that it was Otake's idea and the simple reason was that she liked maple leaves. Soon Matsu came to give a report. Yaichi asked Matsu to stop by for a while to warm himself, then he went to make tea while Matsu talked with Akitsu. According to Matsu, Yaichi doesn't do anything without reason. He doesn't like to feel anything, so he doesn't want to interfere with other people's feelings. He used to always be like that, but now he's starting to change. Akitsu then asked if Matsu had known Yaichi for a long time. Matsu only replied that Yaichi had helped him. When Yaichi returned to bring tea, Matsu was already gone. After that, he poured the tea to drink with Akitsu. While drinking tea, he guessed that Akitsu seemed interested in his background. Akitsu answered that it was true that he was interested in his personality. Hearing that, Yaichi hoped they could be friends for a long time. After that, Akitsu went to patrol outside. Not long after, Yaichi meets Otake, Umezo, and Matsu. He explains his plan to kidnap the son of Kinu's boss. They would lock him up in Umezo's tavern and send a ransom demand. The action was launched, and they succeeded in the kidnapping. Umezo tells Yaichi that he doesn't need money. He just wants to kill that person and send him home. However, Yaichi said that once the transaction had taken place, he needed the money to buy sleeping pills, as silence money, distributed to 5 Leaves members, and the rest would be stuffed into his mouth when they sent him home. Hearing that, Umezo agreed. The next day their plan was successfully carried out. Yaichi and the others were partying at Umezo's tavern. Yaichi said he wanted to do it again, but it was really for money this time. Afterward, he discusses Akitsu's illness. It is said that several servants of noble families who came from outside Edo City suffered from the same disease. Usually, they would return to their hometowns to heal themselves, but in Akitsu's case, Yaichi instead sent him to Soji's old house. Sometime later, Umezo visits Akitsu at Soji's house, where Umezo cooks turtles for him. While he was cooking, Akitsu asked about Soji. Umezo then said that in the past, Soji was one of the leaders of a famous kidnapping group, and Umezo himself was his subordinate. One time, Umezo fell in love with a woman similar to Otake. They married and had a daughter named Kinu. However, when Kinu was a child, his wife died because of sick, so he decided to leave the kidnappers group. Suddenly, someone spoke to the other higher-ups so that Umezo could come out. Then, Umezo went to Edo City and built a tavern. Moments later, Soji has a male guest named Senkichi. Senkichi greeted Umezo and thanked him for something. He said that one day he would stop by at his shop in Edo City. The scene goes back to when Umezo refused to join Yaichi's group. He goes to Soji's house to discuss about Yaichi, after which he gives money to Soji as a form of return. But Soji refused, and Umezo immediately left his house. On the way home, Umezo met Senkichi, who was walking toward Soji's house. He secretly followed Senkichi. At Soji's house, Senkichi said he came to borrow money because he married a prostitute with a lot of debts, and because of that, he was forced to steal to pay her debt. After that, Senkichi and his wife went to Edo City to make a shop, living happily until they had children. Until one day, someone came and asked him to join a gang of thieves. Senkichi, who was used to living in peace, refused. However, he was threatened if he refused and was given the option to pay them if he wanted to be safe. That's why Senkichi asked Soji for help, but Soji said he had no money and couldn't help him. Then Senkichi left his house. On the way, he met Umezo and gave his money to Senkichi. Without saying much, he left Senkichi and returned to Soji's house. According to Soji, Senkichi will not stop asking for money, and because of that, Umezo intends to help him by sending money to Soji's house so that Senkichi can take it. From then on, Umezo decided to join the 5 Leaves group. The scene returns to the present. At night Umezo comes to Yaichi and gives him a map to Soji's house. Umezo asked Yaichi to burn and throw away the ashes when the map was finished. After that, he left Yaichi. The next day Senkichi was visited by Denshichi, who had been blackmailing him. He gave his money to Denshichi. He said that the group leader would be coming in a few days, and he would give Senkichi a job. However, Senkichi protested because he had already paid for it so that he would not be involved in that business again. Unfortunately, if he refuses, Denshichi threatens to spread Senkichi's disgrace to his family. In the evening, Senkichi came to Umezo's restaurant. He tells what happened and asks how to get money, but Umezo only knows dirty ways, because all this time, Umezo worked with the kidnappers who thought he was right. A few moments later, Senkichi left Umezo's restaurant, but on the way, he met Denshichi. He asked if Senkichi had been getting money from Umezo all this time. Senkichi denied it because he didn't want Umezo to be involved in the matter. But because of constant pressure, Senkichi finally said he got money from Saoji's grandfather. Hearing that, Denshichi immediately looked for Saoji's whereabouts. After Denshichi left, Senkichi returned to Umezo's restaurant. He said that he had told Saoji's location. Not wanting Saoji to get into trouble, Umezo rushed to his house. Meanwhile, Otake has arrived at Saoji's house to visit Akitsu, who is getting better. A few moments later, Denshichi arrived and asked Saoji for money, but Saoji would not give his money to him. Denshichi immediately took out his sword to threaten him, and that's when Akitsu got up and tried to fight him without katana. As a result, Akitsu's hand was injured by his sword's attack. Not long after, Otake came and gave the katana to Akitsu. With the katana, he was ready to show his greatness. That's when Umezo arrived and caught Denshichi off guard. Akitsu immediately put away Denshichi's sword and then aimed his sword at his neck. Umezo lifted Denshichi's collar, while Akitsu immediately sat limply because his condition was still sick. Denshichi argued with Umezo. Not long after that, Senkichi appeared from behind and stabbed Denshichi. As a result, he died. After that, Senkichi said he would leave Edo City with his wife and child. Then, Saoji gave money to him. Meanwhile, Umezo will take care of Denshichi's corpse. Not long after, Yaichi arrived at Saoji's house to visit Akitsu. That's when he first met Saoji, and it turned out that Saoji recognized him. They didn't talk much, then Akitsu appeared in a better condition, and he left with Yaichi. Before leaving, Saoji told Yaichi that Koei Bakuro's group would soon come to Edo City. He reminded Yaichi to be careful. Along the way home, Akitsu asks how Yaichi got to know Saoji and about the Koei Bakuro people. Yaichi answered Umezo, who told him that Akitsu's condition was worsening, so Akitsu had to return to his hometown to get better. Akitsu also said that the direction of their conversation had changed. Yaichi said that the former chairman was the Koei Bakuro person they were talking about. Akitsu then said there must be a reason why he did the kidnapping. Yaichi replied that now he felt more at peace than before. Sometime later, Akitsu arrived at the center of Edo City. He walked, looking up at the sky as usual, and again bumped into the passing Ronin. It turned out they were Ronin, who had been hit by him. They were annoyed that he was not careful when walking, then they challenged him to a sword fight. But he felt it was not the right place because they were in a crowd. On the other hand, Yagi was passing by and saw Akitsu surrounded by many people. Moments later, Akitsu is given a wooden sword and challenged to a duel. Because many were watching, he was shaking. Suddenly he imagined his past when he was always humiliated, even by his younger brother. As a result, Akitsu left the crowd and hid in a quiet place. Not long after, Yagi came to him. Akitsu explained about his condition, and Yagi said maybe he could practice at a dojo. But he refused because the dojo must be very crowded. Yagi said that he had a quiet dojo and Akitsu could practice there. Afterward, they walked to a tavern. On the way, Yagi asked if Akitsu wanted to be a samurai again. Hearing that, he said yes, but he still couldn't get over his shy and nervous personality. He said he wanted to be like Yaichi, always calm and smiling. He was very jealous because Yaichi could be so calm. The next day, Akitsu trains in the brothel area. Soon Yaichi came and wanted to help him train. However, because many women saw it, he became nervous because he had not been able to overcome his always nervous personality, so they cancelled their practice. In the afternoon, Akitsu visits Saoji's house to thank him for caring for him. After that, he asked about Yaichi. Saoji replied that he and Yaichi had known for a long time, but Saoji couldn't discuss it in detail. Then they discussed the Koei Bakuro people. According to Saoji, the group had once been captured and beheaded, and Yaichi was one of the members who managed to escape the trial. Afterward, Yaichi broke ties with them and went to Edo City to form the Five Leaves group. Saoji asked Akitsu to be careful. Initially, Akitsu thought he should be careful with Koei Bakuro's group, but Saoji said he had to be careful with Yaichi. In the afternoon, Akitsu went to see Yagi. Unfortunately, he was going on a pilgrimage and couldn't accompany Akitsu to practice, so they both went to the tomb. It turns out that Yagi often makes pilgrimages to his friends' graves. There is even a man he always visits because he has no relatives. One of the graves belongs to his friends who, during his life, acted recklessly, and according to Yagi, his friend was named Yaichi. On the other hand, Matsu was going to meet the grandfather of the rich family named Master Kikuya. There he gave money to him. He said there were only two people he admired, one of whom was him. After that, he asked if Master Kikuya had a problem. At Umezo's tavern, while Matsu was relaxing, suddenly, Umezo said he wanted to leave the Five Leaves group. Matsu said that meant they could no longer gather at Umezo's restaurant. Then he went to meet Yaichi. After Matsu left, Kinu prepared pickles to give to him, and Akitsu was asked to follow him and give the pickles. Finally, Akitsu arrived at Matsu's place after being lost. He gave the pickle to Matsu and saw a beautiful hairpin in his room. It turned out that Matsu was going to sell the hairpin for money. After that, he went to Master Kikuya's house to give him some money. Arriving there, Matsu saw that Master Kikuya was in trouble. He said that his problem had nothing to do with Matsu, but Matsu still wants to help him. Master Kikuya said that his important talisman had been stolen. He guessed that the thief was one of his business rivals. Not long after that, Master Kikuya's subordinates came to give him some information. According to him, the thief was from the Otsuya family. Hearing that, Matsu intends to take the talisman from the Otsuya family. At night he sneaked into Otsuya's house, but when he was about to take it, several guards caught him instead. Sometime later, the Five Leaves group realized that Matsu had disappeared. Even Akitsu had been looking for him everywhere. He returned to Matsu's house and saw a little boy also looking for Matsu. He asked the boy and replied that was the last time Matsu went to Master Kikuya's house. After that, Akitsu rushed to meet Master Kikuya. Arriving at Master Kikuya's house, Akitsu discovers that Matsu has a wife and children. However, his son was sick, so he borrowed money from Master Kikuya. Matsu has always been loyal to him. After that, Akitsu was also informed that Matsu might have been caught by the Otsuya family for wanting to take back Master Kikuya's talisman. Sometime later, Akitsu was sitting together with Yagi. Akitsu told him his problem, and Yagi gave him a solution. Akitsu had to work as a bodyguard in the Otsuya family and then look for Matsu's whereabouts. Hearing that, he agreed. Shortly afterward, Akitsu went to Umezo's restaurant. He said he would save Matsu alone. He said Yagi had helped him, so he was now employed as a bodyguard at the Otsuya family's house. Umezo feels worried because they don't know who Yagi really is, but Akitsu ignored it and immediately ran out of Umezo's restaurant. After Akitsu left, Umezo was annoyed to see Yaichi, who looked calm. He asked why Umezo was worried about Akitsu, who never got along with him. He said because Akitsu was their partner. Suddenly, Yaichi asked Umezo to take care of Akitsu's problem. After Yaichi left, Umezo thought he couldn't get out of the Five Leaves. At night, Matsu was seen being held captive by several people. When his captors left, Akitsu came to see him. Akitsu said he was employed in the house and secretly searched for his whereabouts. At that time, Matsu said that there were two people he respected, Master Kikuya and Yaichi, but because Akitsu wanted to help him, the person he respected had added, namely Akitsu. After that, Akitsu cleaned up and took Matsu away, but he still wanted to find Master Kikuya's talisman. With their current state, Akitsu did not allow him to find the talisman. Now the most important thing is to escape. Akitsu took Matsu to Umezo's restaurant. Shortly after, he returned to the Otsuya family's house to look for Master Kikuya's talisman. When they got there, the house was surrounded by the police, so he couldn't get close. Afterward, he went to Master Kikuya's house and asked what had happened. Then the two of them went to Umezo's restaurant to meet Matsu. Seeing Master Kikuya coming, Matsu immediately apologized for failing to get the talisman. Hearing that, he did not mind it. Soon afterward, they discussed why there were officers gathered at the Otsuya family's house. While Yagi had just left the Otsuya family's house, he held the talisman that Akitsu was looking for in his hand. The next day, Yagi goes to Akitsu and hands the talisman to him. Yagi didn't say much, and Akitsu asked where did he get the amulet from, but he didn't answer. A few moments later, Akitsu met Matsu, who had started to recover. They took a walk and discussed how Matsu paid Master Kikuya. Matsu said the money to pay him came from selling jewelry, while the dirty money from Yaichi is used for fun or charity. Matsu said he joined Yaichi to repay his kindness and handed Akitsu a beautiful hairpin. He asked Akitsu to give the hairpin to his younger sister in the village. On the other hand, Yaichi gets information about who Yagi really is. Based on the investigation, it turns out that Yagi is one of the officers in power. In the evening, Yaichi chats with Akitsu. He asks Akitsu to stay away from Yagi because Yagi is an officer. Because Akitsu is not good at lying, it would be very dangerous if Yagi managed to get information about the activities of the Five Leaves group. Sometime later, Akitsu's younger sister named Sachi arrives. She met him at Umezo's tavern. She said that Bunosuke wanted to marry her, but she didn't like him, so she went to Edo City. Akitsu said that coming there would not solve her problem. Because she felt scolded, she left him. After Akitsu returned to his rented room where Odake lived, it turned out that Sachi wanted to live there. That's when he gave her the pretty hairpin he got from Matsu. Seeing the beautiful hairpins, Sachi looked very happy. The scene goes back in time. There was a man who came to Saoji's house. The man said that he was Yaichi's subordinate, and now he wanted to find him. But Saoji said that Yaichi had died some time ago. He asked where is Yaichi's grave. Then the man approached two other men, and one of the men was Jin, who asked why his eyes were red. The man answered he didn't know, then left the place. The scene returns to the present. Akitsu takes Sachi for a walk in the city. Afterward, they met Yagi. Suddenly, he felt that Akitsu was acting strangely, but Yagi understood that Akitsu was asked to keep his distance from him. Suddenly, Yagi offered them to stop by his very large house. There he practiced swordsmanship with Akitsu, but Akitsu was immediately defeated with only a few attacks. The reason he didn't show his true strength was because Yaichi asked him to do so. After training, Yagi tells the story of his past when he was young. He was a stubborn kid who often came home late at night. Even his annoyed father never wanted to open the gate if he came home late at night. Once Yagi came home late at night and was not allowed in. He had to stay outside even when it was raining. Then his neighbor named Yaichi called him, and they both spent the night at the Sagusa family's house, where he worked. While drinking tea together, they discussed Senoshin. But soon, Senoshin came and got acquainted with Yagi because, at that time, he only had Yaichi as a friend. Now he has a new friend, namely Yagi. Shortly afterward, Yagi finished his past story, then he asked Akitsu if Yaichi had a burn on his back or not, but he never knew about it. After that, Akitsu and Sachi left his house. On the way, Sachi said she wanted to return to her hometown. She asked Akitsu to write a letter saying that he would not allow her to marry. According to her, if he writes that letter, then there is a reason for her to reject the proposal. On the other hand, Saoji's grandfather has an old friend named Toku. They discussed the rumors regarding one of the people from Koubakuro who escaped the court who was Senoshin, who had burns on his back. According to rumors, Senoshin was the traitor of the group, so he could escape the courts. That night Akitsu came to Yagi. He said that Yaichi had no burns on his back. Yagi said that he didn't ask Akitsu to check, but Akitsu replied that he just wanted to ensure it. After they parted ways, Yagi found out that Akitsu was lying, then he believed that Yaichi was Senoshin. The scene goes back in time. When Senoshin was with Yaichi, they stood looking at the red maple leaves. Yaichi said that the red maple leaves are very beautiful and charming. He asked Senoshin to be confident because the burns on his back were similar to those of maple leaves. The scene returns to the present. The Five Leaves members are back in action. They have kidnapped the son of the Kano family. According to Yaichi, that would be their last assignment. After that, the Five Leaves group would be disbanded. In the evening, Yaichi and Akitsu went to ask for ransom, and they met with the representatives of the Kano family to give them the money. But the man said that the people they kidnapped did not need to be returned because what he had kidnapped was an adopted child whose existence was not wanted. Then Yaichi returned to Umezo's tavern to inform him of the situation. They want to return the people they kidnapped. But Yaichi instead wakes up the person they kidnapped. He said that Kano's family didn't want him. Even Yaichi was given money to eliminate him. After saying that, Yaichi left Umezo's tavern. But Akitsu secretly followed him because he felt that Yaichi had been doing the kidnapping, not for money, but because he just wanted to witness the incident. Akitsu guessed that because Yaichi was kidnapped as a child. The next day Umezo and Kinu went to Saoji's house. While Kinu was preparing the food, Umezo chatted with Saoji. It turned out that Yaichi asked for their hostage to be released in the forest, and it was not the responsibility of the Five Leaves group anymore. According to Umezo, Yaichi is getting harder to understand lately. In fact, he will soon disband the Five Leaves group. Not long after Kinu finished cooking, it turned out that at that time, a new man was working at Saoji's house, namely Jin, the person who once kidnapped Senoshin. At night, Akitsu goes to follow Yaichi to someplace. He asked where Yaichi was going. Yaichi replied that he would go to the Kano family to confirm something. Soon Jin appeared behind them. Yaichi pulled out his sword, but Jin could brush it off easily. Akitsu was ready to protect Yaichi, but Jin asked him to get out of the way. However, Akitsu said that he had promised to protect Yaichi. Jin realized that he did not know who Yaichi really was. Jin will take revenge on him as the last group of Koubakuro. In the afternoon, he told his story to him. He said that the head of the family was his younger brother, so he went to Edo City because he wanted to change himself to be a better self. After that, Akitsu asked what the Five Leaves meant to Yaichi. He suspected that Yaichi was still living in the past. Then Yaichi got angry and slammed his food. Akitsu said he wanted to talk about Yaichi before going to Saoji's house. He wanted to find out more about Yaichi, and if Yaichi doesn't want to tell it, he will ask Saoji. Hearing that, Yaichi walked away from him, but before he left, Akitsu said that there was something else he wanted to share with Yaichi. It was the location of his grave. After that, Akitsu went to Saoji's house. There he told about his meeting with Yaichi. In the past, Saoji was the leader of a group of thieves named Ishii. He had been intercepted by several people from Koibakuro's group, and he was injured in the attack, until he finally told his identity, which turned out to be the leader of Ishii's group. Not long after, Saoji met their group leader named Kie. Knowing this, Kie promised to solve the problem of his subordinates and punish him, so Jin came and apologized. He wants to protect their male member named Ryu, the perpetrator of Soji's intercept. Kie finally decides to have Ryu punished with one of her fingers should be cut off as a lesson. Not long after, she was summoned to receive punishment, and the person who would punish her was Seinoshin, the youngest member. Seinoshin then came and took his sword, but instead of cutting Ryu's finger, he cut her head mercilessly. After hearing the story, Akitsu said goodbye and left Saoji's house. On the other hand, Yaichi is drinking at Umezo's tavern. After that, he intended to leave, but he met Yagi outside. Shortly afterward, Yagi invited him for drinks. Even though he was drunk, Yaichi still served him. At that time, Yagi said that he had a friend named Yaichi in the past who worked at the Sagusa family's house and did not have any biological children. Then the family adopted a child named Seinoshin. Yaichi was very close to Seinoshin. Yagi hopes that he can drink sake with Seinoshin when the child grows up. However, according to Yagi, Seinoshin died because of the plague, but soon after, Yaichi also died from falling into the well. But Yagi said that Seinoshin wasn't dying from the plague. Not long after, Mrs. Sagusa became pregnant, so they had a biological child, and because of that, Seinoshin was removed from the family. And because Yaichi knew about it, he was also being removed. That's what Yagi believes. But suddenly, the biological child of the Sagusa family eventually died. They were destroyed because of many misfortunes, and any investigation into them would be useless. When Yagi tells this, Yaichi remembers his past when he was kidnapped. At that time, Jin, who kidnapped him, said that his family did not want Seinoshin's presence and instead wanted to be killed. Jin said that Yaichi was the one who had carried out the kidnapping. After that, Yaichi left Yagi to go home. On the way, Yaichi stopped at a bridge and looked at Ito City at night. That's when Jin came and greeted him. They walked together down the streets. On the way, Jin finally said what he had been hiding. Jin said that all this time, he was not the one who planned to kidnap Seinoshin. In fact, it was the first time he heard Seinoshin's name when Yaichi said it. Hearing that, Yaichi took his sword and then ran towards him. He immediately stabbed Jin for lying to him all this time. Jin replied if he didn't lie to Yaichi, it was certain that Seinoshin would be killed. He finally fell into the river after being stabbed by Yaichi. Suddenly it snowed heavily that night. All this time, Yaichi just found out the truth about his past. He immediately left the place and headed for his grave. There, he curled up all night until morning came. In the morning, Akitsu came there and met Yaichi. Seeing him coming, Yaichi immediately cried on his lap. When the snow subsided, they left the grave. Afterward, Akitsu went to Umezo's restaurant but didn't find Yaichi there. Not long after that, Matsu said Yaichi would do another kidnapping early next year. He asked all of them if they would help him or not. Afterward, Akitsu asked where Yaichi was, and Matsu told him. Shortly after, he immediately rushed to leave Umezo's restaurant. On the other hand, Yaichi was sitting in the shrine area. A few moments later, Akitsu came there carrying dumplings. He told Yaichi to eat the dumplings because they were delicious, especially if his stomach was hungry. Yaichi smiled and ate the dumplings brought by Akitsu. This is the end of the anime. The moral lesson is not to judge people carelessly because we don't know how bitter their past was. We just need to be grateful for not having a past that is too bitter, like most people out there.